Welcome to another edition of Geopolitics and Empire. Quick reminder, support the transmission. Best way to do that is by becoming a paid subscriber on the Geopolitics and Empire Substack. We do every week or two private group Zoom chats with supporters only to shoot the breeze on current events. I do a weekly write-up of all of the headlines of the week, the best ones, and my own analysis and commentary for supporters only. And sometimes we bring back past podcast guests to do a live Q&A that's recorded with supporters only. You can also send donations through DonorBox, Wise, Buy Me a Coffee. Other options are on the website. You can purchase a consult if you want to chat with me, and do check out all of my affiliates. Joining us for the first time on Geopolitics and Empire is Robert Rabil, who's a professor of political science at the Florida Atlantic University with an expertise in U.S. foreign policy and greater Middle East. And his latest book, which he was so kind to send me a while back, is Lebanon and Turkey, Historical Context and Contemporary Realities. Welcome to Geopolitics and Empire, Robert.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
We've spoken, I think, 4 times on my old
at least.
On my old TNT radio show. TNT radio is no longer, but they may be coming back in a different form. And the links to those discussions are in the podcast description, the archive, so people can check that if they would like. And so much is going on. And of course, I thought I'd bring you on Geopolitics and Empire to get your thoughts regarding what's happening in Syria. I just read today Russian troops are departing. Assad is in Moscow. Erdogan, I think, is happy. What's your assessment?
Well, as a matter of fact, today I have a podcast, Lebanon and Israel and United States, mostly the academics. And this is what I said, what I'm going to say to you, because the way I look now, what's happening, and I'm still in disbelief at the swiftness with which this happened. The Syrian rebellion started in 2011, really, and it took years until now Assad was removed. But in the last 8 to 11 days, this group, mainly in Arabic called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, has been able in a short time to go ahead and remove the regime. And not only that, what happened is that Syria, it commands a very important geostrategic location in the Middle East, and is the one really that supported Hezbollah. You have the Iranian there. You have what they call, the ring of fire around Israel, and Syria is really one of the main pillar of that plan. And more so, as a matter of fact, Syria is very important to Iran to project its power. If you go to history, let's not forget, before Alexander the Great, took over Tyre, this area was really with the Persians. And the Persians always historically wanted to have an outlet to the Mediterranean. And Syria really has worked to make this possible. And now what happened with the fall of the Syrian regime, it's not only the fall of the Syrian regime, the fall of the Syrian regime, the end of Hezbollah, the withdrawal of the Russians, and what's called the axis of resistance, all collapsed. And really, myself, let me tell you something really, and this is what I remembered. During the 1980s and late 70s, at a very early age, I served in the Red Cross in Lebanon. And I still remember very well when the Israeli went in, I was there, and I used to be a coordinator between the Israeli, the Lebanese, and the Christian, the Lebanese army and the Christians. And I still remember when the Israeli really, forced the PLO from Lebanon. And you had such a celebration, many people were celebrating while the PLO left. And I still remember, then, and I look now, and I say now really, their celebration in Lebanon, as a matter of fact, not only in Syria, is doubly so. Why doubly so? Because whatever happened in Lebanon, yes, they expelled the PLO, but the Syrian came in then after and occupied Lebanon. Today, this is no such thing. And if you listen to the Syrian, if you listen to the Lebanese, they are really celebrating, and they have every right to celebrate. The Assad regime has been a very tyrannical regime, oppressive regime, And I saw a lot of people that were, kind of left the prison or let out from the prison. And some Lebanese and some Syrian, as a matter of fact, and I listened to them, has been there for 40 years. 40 years in the prison. And you have one of them, I listened to him, really, he was from Jerusalem. And the others, from Lebanon, and the other from Syria. Lebanon has around 700 prisoners. Some of them, were found, and many of them were not found. So broadly speaking, what happened is a kind of an earthquake in the geostrategic, map of the Middle East, really. Now, but this is now the celebration. But after the celebration, this is where I am deeply concerned. What's going to come the day after? And here you have uncertainty. You had a fluid area there. And I am extremely worried. I don't want, we go from a tyrannical regime, broadly speaking, secular. Now you go to a tyrannical regime, an Islamist, which is, of course, in principle and in practice, is going to be anti-minorities and anti-anything that is democratic. So this is now really one of my biggest worry, the concern of the day after. Now, I am cautious optimist, but again, I have to be very careful how I look at things. And I am monitoring now, especially the statement of the leader of the rebel group, Al-Julani. Now he goes by his real name, Ahmad al-Shara. And we'll see what's going to happen. There is much to talk about, and I'm going to wait for your questions.
Yeah, and just on your last point, not only that, but a collapsed and failed state, something like Libya. And just to go back for a moment to get your thoughts on some of the main actors, one of my contentions is the removal of Assad was not done for the right reasons by any of the main actors. Is to serve their own agendas. I saw someone put up a map of Syria recently, divided into 3 spheres of influence. Israel, so that there's this greater Israel project that's expansionist. Turkey, which you talk about in your book, these neo-Ottoman aspirations, one section, and then the U.S. empire, which, they've been in the northeast of Syria effectively, in my opinion, unethically, illegally extracting most of Syria's oil. So just your thoughts on some of these, the U.S.
Right. I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you my thoughts. The collapse of the regime, I told you, it ended Russia, it ended Iran. And now, and Hezbollah, which is an extremely important thing. Now, you have to consider one thing, how this happened. How this rebel, from Idlib, who has been there for a while, they were able to do that. There is 2 factors that allowed them to do that. First, Turkey supported them. Turkey supported them, and it supported its own Islamists to make sure the Kurds won't have autonomy there and won't, from their perspective, pose a threat to them. The second factor, what happened, and this is really because I am a follower, and I know the area very well, especially in Lebanon, Israel. Israel was able to really clip the wings of Hezbollah. And after Hezbollah, it moved to Syria. And I think myself and Iran, let's not forget what they hit Iran. So the pillar of the regime that allowed the regime to stay in power, they just crumbled. And this is what allowed him. Now, who has the main political leverage? You have, let me speak about the political leverage and the military leverage, and I'll speak about United States and Israel. The political leverage now is with Turkey, with Erdogan. Erdogan, as we speak now, today was his foreign minister, his head of intelligence, they were with Julani in Damascus today as we speak. And more so, if I'm not mistaken, either the intelligence chief, or somebody very high up in the Qatari government from Doha. They were all in Damascus with Julani. So when I look at the political power now, I see that really the leverage Turkey has way more than any other countries. It has people and it has a presence. Let me move now to Iran. Iran, I don't think today, again, we had a debate about Iran. I can tell you this. The new president of Iran and the messages coming from Iran and the debates that's happening in Iran, you have to consider this. They are talking about really what we were doing there. We spent billions. We could have used the billions in Iran. And more so, here you have the president is sending all of messages. We have to have some kind of a detente with the new rulers, mainly with the Islamists. This is mainly Iran. Russia is trying to maintain some, but you see now Russia today, as a matter of fact, is withdrawing. Russia is withdrawing, and I don't know about tomorrow. Russia really has suffered heavily because the prestige of Russia, and again, Russia, let's not forget, it had the two bases in Tartus and Latakia, Hmeimim, the air base, and in Tartus, the naval base. You know, they had lease for 99 years. And that was, I think, for Russia, that was a very bitter cup, because they somehow, they managed to get involved in Libya. They managed to have what they call the Eastern Russian Mediterranean Lake. So again, this has kind of all kind crumbled. Now, United States really, you have to consider one thing. United States had only 900 troops. And those 900 troops mainly are located mainly in the base in Al-Tanf. Al-Tanf is on the border of Jordan and Iraq. Jordan, Iraq, and Syria. And they are supportive of the Kurds. If you listen to what President-elect Trump said, I'm not going to get involved. So here, again, you have to consider what the role of United States is going to be. We have a transition from Biden to Trump. I think myself, Trump now, according to his statement, doesn't want to get involved. And I can tell you this, you have a debate now going on in the Republican Party. Say, no, our involvement doesn't mean you have to be militarily involved. What about diplomatic involvement? Really, it doesn't cost much. We are there. We have a strong presence. United States had a strong presence. We're in Jordan, next door. Let's not forget, I don't know if you remember, a few months back or a year back, you know, when they hit us, the Iranians, they hit our base in Jordan, which is next to Syria. So our presence against is in Jordan. So you have a debate is ongoing now. What about United States? And again, you have some people say, listen, we cannot leave like this. Turkey is gonna go ahead, and we don't know what's gonna happen with the Kurds. Already, I can tell you this. In Manbij, there is certain area, the Kurds that they have in the northeast, you know, and Manbij is one of them, has been taken by the rebels. You have, I hear, some fight in Kobani. This is, again, a very important town in the north for the Kurds. And Deir ez-Zor. This is Deir ez-Zor, you know, where mainly from central Syria to eastern, central east or east central of Syria. It has been taken by the rebels too. So here what you have a lot of worries, you have a lot of concerns about United States presence and what's going to happen to the Kurds. I know that according to reports, and some of them are, I would say, credible, United States told the Kurds to withdraw from Manbij. You know, this is very important developments that we're going to go on. And I know also, based on precedent, I know that President Trump at the time, you know, in his first term, he spoke with Erdogan, and after that phone conversation, he withdrew from a good part of where the Kurds are, you know, and allowed the Turks to go in. So this is dynamic. Now, this dynamic is really very fluid. And I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't know. But United States has some leverage, but I don't think it has really now the policy, the plan, and the determination what to do. Mainly, who is down there? The rebels, and we don't know how they're gonna go. They are Islamist, let's not forget that, and Turkey. And behind Turkey, you have Qatar. Now, other than that, really, these are the main parties. And of course, here there is something to be said also. You know, really, HTS, mainly the main rebel group led by Julani, who was a former Al-Qaeda, let's not forget that, who was a former Al-Qaeda and former ISIS, and then he split and he rebranded himself now as a pragmatist and moderate. Even if he speaks in a moderate voice, his coalition is formed by many other Salafi jihadi. That doesn't mean they're going to listen to him tomorrow or after tomorrow. So really what we have in Syria now, I am cautious optimist, but in this case, I am extremely, extremely cautious. Yes, you have a terrible regime has fallen, collapsed, but now this day is very so uncertainty. And I think that, as I mentioned to you, the main actors now are the rebels and Turkey. Oh, let me speak about Israel. Israel, as a matter of fact, I told you, if it wasn't for Israel, I don't think the rebels would have been done that, because Israel really clipped the wing of Hezbollah. And Hezbollah, I can tell you this, Hezbollah at one point had between over 30,000 fighters in Syria. And let me tell you stories that I know about it, and something about the collapse of the Syrian regime. When Hezbollah members were fighting in Homs, really, they were looking for the army to come and support them. The army left its arm and ran away. So Hezbollah ran away. And now Hezbollah really is in a tough shape. And really, this is what now gave some fresh air to some Lebanese to say, listen, now we could have a better system. We could have a better country in Lebanon, because really Hezbollah has hijacked the decision of war and peace, and has been mainly the most powerful actor, in Lebanon. So now you have a lot of changes in Lebanon and in Syria.
Just a quick thought on Jordan.
Please.
In general, we're seeing around the world governments collapse, coups, and regime change operations or attempts. Georgia, Romania, French and German governments fell, Syria. And I saw this article published on Ynet News saying Jordanian leaders fear kingdom could be next to fall. Do you have any thought about whether Jordan?
Well, Jordan, as a matter of fact, as an American citizen who's close here, and looking and really, interested in the area. I haven't been to Jordan, but I follow the news of Jordan. Jordan, really, let's not forget, if you go back into 1970, the PLO and the PFLP tried to dislodge the kingdom. And it took United States and Israel to save them. And Jordan had a lot of issues. Jordan has 2/3 of the people are Palestinians. Jordan had the Muslim Brotherhood. So really, the king of Jordan has been facing a lot of challenges, but he has been able to deal with those challenges. You know what I mean? And more so, as a matter of fact, United States really supports Jordan, because Jordan is important from United States perspective to two countries, Israel and Saudi Arabia. And this is where you have convergence, to a certain extent, that Jordan needs to be stable. And I don't know if you know, but you have now a good presence in Jordan. You have, when Iran struck at Israel, many of those missiles, they were intercepted in Jordan. We have jets in Jordan. We have presence in Jordan. And yes, you have a worry about Jordan. And let me add this. Again, I don't know if you know about that, probably a year ago or something, there was an attempt from within the palace, to remove King Abdullah. So yes, I agree fully with you. Jordan is in a tough situation, but he has support of the army still. The Bedouins support him, support the king, and he has support from the region, and he has support from United States. And of course, he's not the ruler like Assad. No, King of Abdullah. He's I would say broadly speaking, he's a fair ruler, and he's respected. Why? Within the Shia and within the Sunni, they trace their lineage to Prophet Muhammad. So they are from the family, they are Hashemite, from the family of Prophet Muhammad. And this is why they are called Sayyids. So they have respect from the Sunni and the Shia. What Jordan worry about, from Salafi Jihadi. He worry about Jolani. He worry about ISIS. He worry about these countries, these groups, as a matter of fact. And of course, to a certain extent, the Muslim Brotherhood. This is where he worries about. And of course, you have good number of Palestinians now seeing their hopes are being dashed. They are moving more toward the Muslim Brotherhood and toward certain extremist groups. So that's big worry to Jordan.
You mentioned axis of resistance previously. I want to get your thought. Alexander Dugin gave a speech recently in Moscow, and he said, quote, the recent desperate and in some places successful attacks by globalists against Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Romania, Syria demonstrate that unipolarity, it cannot be written off. The dragon of globalism is mortally wounded but still alive. And that's something that I've actually been saying in recent days. There's all this talk about unipolarity, the decline of American empire, this rise of multipolarity. And I'm just saying that it still seems that, U.S. foreign policy is growing strong. And as you mentioned, Russia just, in many ways, it's for Russia, an embarrassment. And in Iran, it just seems like the axis of resistance does not exist. Just your thoughts on that and world order.
It's a very good question, very important question, and very kind of a complex question. It's not very easy to treat. But let me split it in a certain way, the way I look at it. When I look at Russia myself and what's happening to Russia, my position, really. I think Russia did a mistake by going in. It was a strategic blunder. But I think mainly you have a lot of blames on NATO and what they are doing. From 2008, saying that Georgia and Ukraine should be, part of NATO. 2014, what they did. And they went to the doorsteps of Russia. Really, by going to the Baltic states. Any major country, she would say, listen, this is unacceptable, Russian or not Russian. And this is something, as a matter of fact, I think that United States, and I spoke about it, I put it in article and everything. I think that was a mistake. Don't tell me that Russia is this, Russia is that. Put yourself in the shoes of Russia and ask yourself what you are going to do. So mainly when I speak about Russia, I think, and listen, and I go back to George Kennan, who was really the author of the containment of the Soviet Union, and others in the CIA, and others, the granddaughter of Eisenhower, and you have many that said, what are we doing here? So mainly from this perspective, I think it was strategically wrong for United States to go and to do like this to Russia, to push Russia in this way. And more so, as a matter of fact, I think more than that, I think United States and the West, and I blame Europe, and I blame Germany too. What they did is that they are trying to sever Russia from the Western civilization. And it's part and parcel of the Western civilization. They pushed it into the arm of China. They pushed them, really into the global South. And here, this is where I go, and I will treat the second segment of your questions. You think that, I really feel, yes, you have a movement from unipolarity to multipolarity. But always in such transitions, you have what we call hiccups. Syria is not a country. You have to consider Syria has been going in the throes of civil war since 2011. And what kept Assad, what kept Assad is Hezbollah and Iran and other Shia. Really, it wasn't Assad. Now, when you say U.S. foreign, yes, U.S. foreign policy is there, but you have to consider most of the global South now doesn't really or have put sanctions on Russia. They are not enemies with United States, but they say, listen, we are unhappy with certain policies. And I see that with the expansion of BRICS, with the expansion of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, with China moving in, as a matter of fact, on our border here. Do you know that really? Look at Mexico, where you are, and Latin America. If United States say that we are the biggest trader with Latin America. Yes, only yes. Why? Because Mexico is the largest trading partner with United States. Take Mexico out, and then you have Latin America or South America. All the major trading partner is China. China now has satellite in Argentina. It's building deep sea ports. So mainly today, what we are looking, yes, United States foreign policy is strong and it's going to stay strong. But today I see the trajectories. The trajectory of US foreign policy and power is not going into a straight line. It's going mainly like this. You know what I mean? It's leaning downward, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But still, I see a movement toward multipolarity. Syria is a hiccup. It was really from the beginning, there was a mistake about Syria. Syria really, even since its inception, was like Lebanon, with sectarianism and the authoritarianism that came in. Arab nationalism, the way it was expressed by Assad. Really, you can't. You were building. You were putting pillars, or you are putting foundation, on a something that's not steady. That's not steady, and this is what happened. So I think really no, the world is going still toward multipolarity. You are going to see here and there. Of course, you are going to see still United States is the most formidable power, but looking ahead, the dollar is under stress now. You have a movement toward de-dollarize the dollar. It's going to take time, not now, year or two, but it's going to take time. BRICS is getting bigger and bigger. And let me tell you an example now, the Arab Gulf. The Arab Gulf, merely they always worked with us. And then when we tell them now, for example, Biden at one time called Mohammed bin Salman, he did not pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Blinken went to visit him and he was supposed to see Mohammed bin Salman in the afternoon. He made him wait until the next day. When we told the Saudi and the Gulf, listen, guys, we have to have the oil, is going up. Why don't you go and flood the market with oil, increase oil? They said, no, they work with Russia. Mainly the point is, my friend, today, it's no longer, East and West with many countries, especially the global South. And those countries now, like Saudi Arabia, it's Saudi first policy. You know what I mean? UAE first policy, India first policy. India is our friend, but India still, its trade with Russia has increased by 300%. Really. South Africa, you name it, Brazil, these are not our enemies. But mainly now, what happened now, it's no longer between two camps, and the global South now is the biggest camp. And somehow they are saying, listen, we are not your enemy, but you are not going to dictate to us like you used to dictate before. So mainly Syria is one area, in the whole big areas in the world, in the geostrategic world.
Let me ask you about Iran. My first reaction immediately was, and I wrote this in my last paid subscriber analysis, that Iran is next. And I've been consuming a lot of interviews the past few days, and I've been hearing analysts from different perspectives saying, yes, Iran might be next. In fact, this morning I read about Trump talking about, was it preemptive strikes? Trump considers preemptive airstrikes on Iran. And then, we have to admit, NATO Supreme Commander Wesley Clark, he gave a speech in 2007. Yeah, where he was, you're familiar with that. In 2001, he was told that America would take out 7 countries. Including Syria.
Very well.
The last one was Iran. So and plus, going on top of what we were talking about earlier, the axis of resistance seems weak. Russia and Iran, China hasn't done anything. And, I've interviewed the professor, Francis Boyle, and his book, Libya, Destroying Libya and the World Order. He talks about how, when you mentioned Syria in 2011, Libya, where that, those were tacit allies of Russia and China, Gaddafi was, but Russia and China were too weak to do anything, and they did not veto that, U.S.-led...
in 2011, correct.
Right. They did not veto the U.S.-led UN resolution to use NATO to bomb Libya. Basically, Russia and China threw Gaddafi to the dogs because they were too weak. This seems almost like a replay, and so I just feel like Iran could be next. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, something, listen, I cannot say it cannot happen, but let me look at the scenarios and let me look at Trump and the policy makers with him, his advisors and this. Trump himself, really, he ran on a platform, no more wars. And really, if you want to think you are going to hit Iran and nuclear program in Iran, I assume Iran is going to hit back. And we have over 40,000 Americans in the Gulf. This is one thing. Second, yes, he's going to have people tell him in one ear, let's hit Iran. But also he's going to have people on the other ear whispering, no, don't hit Iran. Tucker Carlson is one of them. I think that Vance, the vice president, he doesn't like Iran, of course. But mainly, I think that the way I see it, Trump is going to give Iran first the chance to have certain negotiations. Now, if those negotiations did not pan out, and if Iran goes and weaponize the nuclear program, this is when United States might do something with Israel. But absent, weaponizing the program, and given that, and you have to take now a good look at, yes, you have a lot of the camp of President-elect Trump, they really probably they would like, but also others than Tucker and others who say, listen, be careful, be careful. You have the Arab Gulf. If you remember, in 2016, the first overseas trip was to Saudi Arabia. And after that, he really forged him and Jared Kushner. Very good relationship with the Arab Gulf. And the Arab Gulf today, really, if you look at the statement, I am monitoring that, day in, day out. They don't want to have a war with Iran, period. After that detente that was brokered with China, and you have a lot of talks between the UAE and Iran, Qatar and Iran, really, they don't want a war. And already, you have a statement by MBS, by Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto ruler. He said, listen, we don't want a war. They feel that they have to manage their affairs. And they think that, that the Iranians today, I can tell you something about the Iranians. The Iranians today know they are not in a position to challenge the West, especially United States or Israel. They are not in a position. And already, if you look at their statement, the president of Iran said, listen, the Americans are our friends. Since when you have an Iranian, going, look at his statement, say, hey, we are friends. And I think that you did indeed a meeting happen with Elon Musk and the Iranians. So really, this is a kind, I think myself, I don't think that United States is gonna carry out an attack. I think United States first, it's gonna pursue diplomacy. Trump, I think he's gonna try to be acting on his promise, no more war with the Middle East. And then I think if Iran does something, and especially when it comes to the nuclear program, or if they do something, for example, God forbid, they fire a rocket and some Americans die, like they did before in Iraq. This is something where he'll be under a lot of pressure and he might order something. But I don't think the Iranians are gonna do anything like that. I know that from Lebanon, the Iranian told Hezbollah, be quiet. I know that today you have a lot of movements in Iraq because now Iran is focusing. It knows Syria is gone and it knows Lebanon is mostly gone too. So they look now, they want to protect whatever they have. And what they have now, which is very important to them, is Iraq and Yemen. And Iraq is number one. So I don't think the Iranian is going to give any pretext under which United States, can use to bomb Iran. Listen, and I could be wrong. You never know, because something with President Trump, you have to go, really, he's sometimes unpredictable, he's unconventional, but based on his statement and based on precedent and based on the people around him, this is what I think myself.
We've mentioned a lot of the groups in the region and countries. Are there any other elements, ethnicities, groups, actors that you think are interesting?
As a matter of fact, I can tell you this. Let me go. The Palestinian, I don't know, they are the loser. I think what Hamas did was really, they have been cursed by their leadership. Really, the Palestinian, really, they are in a very tough shape. The Lebanese now, in Lebanon now, they have a chance to build or to try to build a better country and better system. And really, those leaders, they have been for quite some time with us. Either they have to go or they have to change their ways because now they have a chance of really, kind of having stability, for a father or for a mother to know that they are planning a future for their children. This is really what people do. That's what I do for my child. I don't want my child to go die in Iran or anywhere else. I want to provide him with the path and security to go and have a good living. This is and this is what many Lebanese want. So I hope this will happen. Now, but also you have I am afraid of settling scores, because you have some kind of a polarization. You have some Sunni very upset with the Shia, with Hezbollah. Some Christians extremely upset with Hezbollah. Listen, Hezbollah for quite some times has been assassinated, a good number of them. Really. The Prime Minister Hariri, you know, and Jmayil, and Asir, and many Gibran Twaini. So mainly you have a lot of assassinations that took place. So what I worry is that Hezbollah still has weapons. It might have not the ballistic missiles, but still they have metal, still they have the unit of assassination. I am worried that with the polarization going there, if the army doesn't really, you know, go and stand strong in Lebanon and put its boot, you know, on the ground in Lebanon, strong enough, you might have settling score, and this could be awful for Lebanon. Syria, as I mentioned to you, it's uncertain. Really, even if the leader says, well, I am moderate, we are going to see. And even if he says, I am moderate, I don't know about his partners. And I don't know what's going to happen with the Kurds. With the Druze now, you have some Druze that are saying, listen, Julani, you know, the leader, has killed some of us, and now it's better for us to go and be under the jurisdiction of Israel. It happened. Take a look at it. So you have now number of the leaders of the Druze, they are saying, we are better off now with Israel than with Jolani. So I don't know how the dynamics now. This is the big thing. And of course, I don't know about Turkey's policy, how it's gonna really try to mend the system, create a system. And you never know now. I have to tell you this. If Erdogan thinks he's gonna be able to control Jolani, I don't know if he's right, because he wasn't able to control him before. He supported him after. But here, this is now, you have a lot of dynamic, you have a lot of struggle of power within the actors themselves. This is Syria. Iraq, Al-Hashd al-Shabi, or the Iraqi Popular Mobilizational Units. These are, you know, pro-Iranians, and I can trace them for you to 1982, when Khomeini mainly created the Supreme Council of the Islamic Revolution of Iraq, mainly an umbrella, Shia umbrella, where to put all the Islamist party, the Shia there. Here they are pro-Iranians, and they have influence in the government, but they don't have a lot of influence with regular Iraqi. So this is where, again, and that's why what I see today, you have a lot of activities in Iraq. You have like a general from Britain, chief of intelligence, and CENTCOM from United States, from other Arab countries. And I say, what's going on in Iraq? They are all now conversion on Iraq. I really don't know what's going on, but I know that you have certain worries. So this is where I worry about, again, what Al-Hashd al-Shabi they are going to do. If they are going to support the Alawi in Syria, if they need help. I don't think Iran is going to like that, but I don't know what they're going to do. So this is now certain fluidity. Iran, as I mentioned to you, Iran, something about Iran. When they say, well, you might have a revolution. Yes, you might have a revolution. Yes. Because if you go back to 2009, you have a huge popular revolution. But there is something to counteract that. What's something to counteract that? If you go back to the Shah lost Iran because he lost the determination mainly to use power at his disposal to suppress any revolt. Now you have this theocrat for the time being. I don't know about tomorrow, but for the time being, I think myself, given the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Basij and others, I think they will stay in power at the cost even of killing 1 million Iranian. This is what I think myself. They want to stay in power. Now, you might have a Gorbachev in the near future. Once you have cracks in the system, then I will tell you, you know something, it's moving, it probably is going to move downward, spiral downward fast. I don't see that now, because when I look at the demonstration, somehow even the hardliner and the moderate, they come together. Yes, they fight, they debate, but when it comes to the security of the regime, they rally, you know, around each other. So my point is, the Iranian regime today has the determination to stay in power. And once you have that determination, mainly, they will stay in power. Look at Egypt. You know, really, they moved Morsi, and they killed hundreds and hundreds of them. and they stayed in power, period. Now the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. And Morsi, by the way, true, I am against the Muslim Brotherhood, but Morsi, really he was the first democratically elected president. So mainly the determination. The Arab Gulf now. The Arab Gulf, again, first Gulf policy. What's in their own interest, number one. And they don't want a war. They don't want a war. They have money. Their people are not unhappy. As a matter of fact, today, I have a student, Sama. She was funded by MBS, and she completed her dissertation, on Saudi policy, foreign policy, including domestic policy. And she graduated today. And she tells me, I learned a lot from them. As a matter of fact, I have 2 Saudi students now doing their Ph.D. So they tell me now the changes in Saudi Arabia, really, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Especially vis-a-vis women. Really big changes. And Mohammed bin Salman, really, he's the kind of a ruler. Is he a Democrat? No. Is he a reformer? Yes. So really, it's his way or the highway. And now he's making the highway, instead of 4 lanes, 8 and 10 lanes. You know what I mean? So, and they are happy with that. UAE, they are happy with that. Qatar, Oman. Listen, they are living well. They are living well. And if you listen, since I know the Middle East, there is something really always rings in my mind when one guy asked his father. He was involved in the revolution. And he was telling him, really people want freedom, this and this. And somehow they got to mention the rich and those, and those affiliate of the regime. And he said, listen, the rich people, they have a freedom. They don't need freedom. And their freedom is the money. You know what I mean? And really at the bottom of it, and me, when I think about it, it's really, if I look at Saudi Arabia, yes, you have some Shiite unhappy, but really they are happy. If you look at UAE, who's gonna go? If I look at Qatar, Oman, so. But really, somehow now, and of course, you have a leadership today. I think the leadership today in that part of the world, they are more attuned to changes in the global world more than their father and their forefathers. UAE today has a huge foreign investment fund. They are investing everywhere. Saudi Arabia is the same, and they're really using technology unbelievable. Really, it's unbelievable, really, and of course, they are friends with everybody. They buy weapons from us, but their biggest trade is not with us, it's with China. I can tell you this now. Do you know in Saudi Arabia, learning Chinese now is required in the curriculum from elementary school to from elementary to college? Yes, learning Chinese. You have to learn Chinese. UAE is a small country, have now, according to some report I read, and that was mainly, I think, a couple of years ago, 150 schools, teaching Chinese. In Lebanon, as a matter of fact, which really doesn't have nothing, the Chinese moved to the Jesuits. I know the Jesuits. I give lecture there. And they built a Confucian center. And again, at some place, a school of language to teach Chinese. So mainly, my point is today, you have certain area where you could expect some problem, and you have other areas. Really, I don't think the people, they are going to go and rebel. In the case of the Middle East, of the Gulf, the people are happy. They are buying them. I don't hear anybody, they're going to rebel against Mohammed bin Salman or Al Nahyan or Al Sabah. In Iran, yes, I hear people there are not happy with that, but the Iranians in power, they have the determination to stay in power. Now, where the problem is, Syria, Tunisia today. Tunisia is a sad thing what happened. Libya, you know what I mean? And I would say, if you are going to see, you have a friction now, and as that friction has been going on for quite some time, between Morocco and Algeria. And my worry again, really other than Syria, ISIS and Al-Qaeda have been reconstituting their power in many places. In the Sahel region today in Africa, they are very powerful. The French are withdrawing. We don't have much presence there. And really, you have a huge ISIS and Al-Qaeda presence. You go to the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. You have, again, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and you have one powerful Islamist movement, the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan. It's right there. So really, you have, and the Philippines. Yes, the Philippines, they fought ISIS. But again, you go down south, where Abu Sayyaf is and all other is, you have a presence. So mainly, again, you have another worry other than that, the worry of Salafi jihadism. Salafi jihadism, I think myself, is reconstituting itself.
And just my last question then for you,
Please.
which is related to what you just said. Would you say the biggest losers then would be the Christian populations? Because you mentioned minorities before. I've read already reports of perhaps attacks on Christians and minorities in Syria and elsewhere. Do you see this? How do you see this?
Yeah, it could be, as a matter of fact, sad. As a matter of fact, my cousin, he's married to a Syrian Christian, and I spoke with him, and I speak with him because he knows, she knows, and they are really terrified. And I can tell you this now: what's happening now between Syria and Lebanon? You have a good number of Syrian refugees in Lebanon moving to Syria, and you have a good number of Christians and some Alawi with money and some Shia with money, Syrian, are moving back to Lebanon. Are moving to Lebanon. So you have now an exchange of refugees, exchange of people. But yes, indeed, you have a worry. And this is why, for example, the Druze said, listen, we don't want to be, part of this government, and we don't want to be under his jurisdiction, under, the rebel. They said no. So this is where, as a matter of fact, much is going to depend on him and on the leadership of this transitional government now. What kind of laws, what kind of a structure, what kind of a system they are going to have. And today, indeed, you are absolutely right. The Christians are extremely worried, despite the fact that Jolani, Sandem Elara said, don't you worry, Syria is all. But as I mentioned to you, if Jolani said that, what about his coalition partner who has been killing Christians everywhere else, and Alawi and Shia and everybody else, mainly not like them? So this is where I worry, and this is really a kind of a really it's very sensible, that I worry about it as especially the Christians, they worry about it.
So we just got a master class in the Middle East from someone who has skin in the game. And again, in your book, you mentioned a lot of the context and the back history, precisely.
Yes, the Ottoman Empire. It ruled all these countries.
Yeah, you talk about Lebanon and Syria and Turkey. And some of the things that we've touched on, so people can check out your latest book and your other books that are on the shelf behind you. And all of your links are in the description, your website, your X account. Where are the best places for people to follow you?
Well, something, I don't have a lot of followers on Twitter. I'm not a controversial figures. I don't kind of give and take. So, Facebook or Twitter, if they want to follow me at Twitter at Robert Rabil, I will be very happy and I'll be very grateful. And of course, they can visit my website. They can read my article. I have more to upload, but, I am busy. I deal with Ph.D. students, with graduate students. I deal with lectures. And, so I'm not up to date mainly to keep everything really, on time in a timely fashion. I have a lot of things to deal with. So if they want to follow me at Twitter, for example, or if you want to follow, just my website to take a look at my article, or you want to take a look at my books, my books are all mainly peer-reviewed, highly commended, and I received a lot of, the awards. I received a good number of them.
I think you mentioned one of your books was required reading.
Yeah, required reading at the United Nations and at the bureaucracy of United States. That was Embattled Neighbors, Syria, Israel, and Lebanon. And as a matter of fact, the other two, Salafism. Salafism is a very important book. And you had a lot of, and it was reading, I don't know if it was required, but at CENTCOM and certain, area, they had it on their list of reading list. And it had, and it received many excellent reviews. As a matter of fact, all of my book received reviews. Good ones.
It's always great catching up with you, Robert.
Thank you,
and
thank you
for
my
being
friend.
on. Thanks.
Thank you. Stay well, and until next time, okay?